It's 9:45 before our 2 full days at Port Aventura, so we're sneaking in really quick.
We need to ride
Why?
Furious Baco like right now. Like
Yeah,
it's my most
someone
seeked
wants to
out
ride
like
Furious Baco.
in the world. Like I cannot believe we are here right now.
I mean, when you got Furious Baco coming in over the bay, that's about the only good thing about Furious Baco.
In the wine vineyards of Furious Baco. That was pretty good. We were in the front and I was on the inside. So I actually enjoyed it the very first ride.
I don't even know what to say. Like it was flying the whole time, and then we rode on the side that went under the 0G roll. So I was just getting like pulled, like while I was going 80. Like it is like nuts. It's like insane positives the whole time. Like holy crap.
I was sat next to Mark for the ride. I could just hear him like squealing with delight the whole way around.
Oh my god, I can't believe we just got on that.
It's really cool to launch and actually go downhill after. It's kind of weird
Yeah,
because
that's kind of a good bit because you get the airtime from the
yeah,
launch.
yeah, and you know the rule where like the first element of a ride has to be the tallest because of in case of rollback, you know, it has to make it around the rest of the layout. It doesn't really apply here, which is very different. And it is really nice to not have like any slow moments after such a crazy launch because you're not going into a top hat or anything. You're just like cruising through the whole layout.
The whole ride is so intense. Like if you like intense coasters and positives, like you need to get out here to ride this.
Good morning from Port Aventura World. It's a special park because the original investors were Busch Gardens when it was owned by Anheuser-Busch, so the good Busch Gardens. And Alton Towers is Tussauds Group. So there's a lot of, you know, good theming. There's a lot of good rides. That's a good pair to have. Build you a theme park. And of course, Shambhala is here, known for being one of the best rides in the world. Mark and I have never been here. We're staying at the resort, so we just used our private entrance to get in. And David has been here.
It's an awesome park. I mean, Shambhala was the coaster that got me into coasters.
Here we go. I can't wait. It's unbelievable to be here. Port Aventura was built near the location for a once considered Disney park. The answer became Port Aventura that would be owned by Busch Gardens, Tussauds, and a non-profit bank. It's a pretty great recipe for an outstanding park which would open in 1995. Plus, the well-known designer John Wardley would be involved in many of the coaster layouts, most well-known for his Alton Towers work. Universal Studios would also buy a large share of the park in 1998, and at one point Busch and Universal would have stake in the park at the same time, and then Universal would sell in 2004. And today, unfortunately, all of these companies do not have any stake in the property. The park is owned by 2 private equity firms. We'd stay at Hotel PortAventura, which is probably one of the best locations for a theme park hotel that I've ever stayed in. It's just steps away from the entrances of both the 2 parks here, a private entrance to Port Aventura, and then just steps away from Ferrari Land as well. The Port Aventura theme park is split into 5 themed areas. The Mediterranean is where the entrance area is. It features transport rides as well as Furious Baco. The Far West, which features multiple wooden coasters, a couple water rides, and Uncharted, the indoor coaster. Mexico featuring a mine train. China with Dragon Con and Shambhala, and the Polynesian area. All of these areas feature shows and flat rides as well. It really gives a very well-rounded lineup to this park, and there's also a Sesame Street kids area with a pretty good shooting dark ride. The Sesame Street dark ride is pretty good. I'm not a massive fan of shooters. I just think it should be regular dark ride.
You kind of end up just like not paying attention to the scenes of what's going on and just like trying to shoot stuff all the time.
Yeah, there's a good set of animatronics in there, probably like 5 throughout the ride, but you wouldn't even notice because you're just looking right at the screen. So here in the Mediterranean area, the main entrance, it's one of the nicest looking coaster interactions out there. It goes over the pathways and along the water. It's a very beautiful reveal and a grand entrance to the area. Now last night, after a few beers, a front row ride on that inside seat, my review from earlier was very nice. This thing is very rough and it's really not one of my favorites. The Intamin Wing roller coaster is the only one of its kind in the world. It features that incredible hydraulic launch, which does allow for that interesting downhill moment right at the end of the launch track, something that isn't completely possible with something like a magnetic launch because of the possibility of a rollback in that case, and then the train would just valley. So this is a very cool and unique layout. The layout also can't fully be seen because it takes place so low to the ground and in and around trenches. That design is beautiful. It's extremely unique. I've read that an architect firm actually designed a lot of this ride, which may give the reasoning of this kind of strange layout. Sometimes these strange ideas turn into something very cool, and the low to ground turns really enhance the speed, and they give off a different feeling than that of any other coaster. It's not something that I love to ride multiple times because of the intensity of the jackhammering. Definitely a ride that gives many a headache or a backache, and it's pretty well known for being that way. You really need to enjoy rough rides to have fun on this one. The inline twist is the highlight of the coaster. It's actually one where the jackhammering lets up for a bit. Just a really beautiful coaster with nice pacing, okay theming, even a bar at the exit. But as much as I want to love everything about this ride, it's just not good.
And my hand is just instantly bleeding. I think that's before like in my pointer finger.
You'll probably run through the Polynesian area next, with the main draw here being a show and a water ride, and then further along the path, you'll encounter China, the big draw of the park for coaster enthusiasts, with the dueling lift hill of Shambhala and Dragon Con. Dragon Con being a 8 inversion coaster. It's a classic B&M floorless model, and it has that very classic B&M feel and every B&M element that you could want. For this reason, it does feel similar to a lot of other B&M sit-downs that were built in the 90s and 1000s. If positive G's and a little bit more intense of an experience are your thing, this is another great ride that you'll enjoy. The ride starts with a nice drop. The little pre-drop is one of my favorite things. Just gives a nice lift out of your seat moment to the main drop. And then what follows are those standard elements, a loop into a dive loop, into the 0G, the classic Cobra roll, and eventually the interlocking corkscrew finale. But Dragon Con has an amazing flow. Most elements have a fun little turn in between them, and this ride is just really beautifully paced. It's showing its age with the slight roughness and restraints, but the older these models get, the more it's like riding a classic piece of like poetry or something. Dragon Con isn't my style of ride. It's full of like positive G's, but I bet you the overhead layout is extremely pleasing. Like the brake run goes through the Cobra roll. And of course, Shambhala, the second of these iconic attractions. It's one of the most well-known hypercoasters in the world, also manufactured by Bolliger and Mabillard. It's been called the best roller coaster by some, and it really is an exciting layout that's a bit unconventional for the B&M Hyper brand. A huge amount of floater G-forces here, and then that very unique turnaround, the ampersand, this and sign shaped turnaround is very visually pleasing, and it rides nicely if you enjoy positive G's. And then you'll hit 2 more airtime hills, as well as the nice interaction with the pathway through the splashdown. My main irritation with this ride is the train. I just wish it was a standard, maybe 9-row B&M train instead of the staggered seating it has. It just trails slowly over these hills, whether you're in the front or the back. You're really kind of getting held up by the back of the train if you're in the front, and then you're really yanked over if you're in the back, going down the hills. The middle seat is kind of nice on these trains. Other than that, it kind of just messes with the pacing a little bit. One of the best B&M Hypers / Gigas, and definitely worth the trip here. Holy crap, what a good ride. I can't wait for it to speed up through the day. The hills are huge. The airtime lasts forever. So good.
It's probably my favorite B&M Hyper. I'm biased because it's obviously the coaster that like got me completely hooked on coasters.
Yeah.
So I've always got a special place for it.
In this area, China, it's also home to one of the larger theater productions in the park. I recommend seeing the main show in the theater if you're going to see a show. This is the one to see. Mexico features the drop tower Huracan Condor. The Temple of Fire attraction is kind of like Poseidon's Fury, but toned down. The special effects aren't as good, but the idea of the attraction is similar. And then finally, the Far West. It's home to a large collection of roller coasters, including the newer Uncharted, an indoor roller coaster, pretty much for the whole family with special effects. Personally, I haven't done it, but it's one of those rides where it's best not knowing what to expect before riding it. And then you have the Dueling Woody, standard CCI. The trains unfortunately ruin it. It used to run with PTCs, which I think would fit this attraction much more. They just track nicer than these trains by Kumbach. This is a pretty rough ride.
This ride had a really good ejector airtime, and I had my hands up. And the Kumbach trains are like hydraulic, so they come all the way down. They don't click, and like they just stay there. So once it was kind of tight, it was a little bit uncomfortable.
Basically, you're racing, and then the two trains go into a tunnel, and then at the next bit, suddenly the other train's facing you somehow.
Yeah, and it is actually a good effect because I was prepared to still be racing, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, are we like way behind? Are we way ahead? And then, yeah, they are coming towards you, it's a cool effect. It works really well. The other wooden coaster is a family wooden coaster, also worth the ride, just pretty average. And then the mine train. This mine train was actually designed by architects, so it looks really nice, but the whole layout and everything is kind of odd. I mean, there's a whole lift for just pretty much one turn into another lift and lots of brakes. But overall, it's a good looking ride. It just is pretty lame. That would conclude our day at PortAventura, a great park, really a 2-day resort at minimum because of Ferrari Land being there as well, and the slow operations at the rides are pretty painful, and another reason that you probably need those 2 full days here. That will do it. Ferrari Land was next. Thanks for watching. See ya.